1 year into my marriage, I was cornered, stripped of my clothes, and pinned against a wall. The woman turned on her phone to start a live stream, then slapped me hard across the face. "You filthy homewrecker. How dare you seduce my husband?" She had the strength of an ox. I couldn't fight back. All I could do was cover my chest and scream in denial. "You have the wrong person. I'm married. I don't even know your husband." The woman sneered and threw a marriage certificate at my face. It was a certified copy of a marriage license, complete with a photo of her and my husband, Liam. "Liam and I got married 3 years ago. Maya, you are the mistress here. Get it?" My mind went completely blank. Overnight, my life was ruined. I lost my promotion at the TV network, and I was blacklisted from the entire industry. Depressed and broken, I walked out onto the balcony of our penthouse. Just as I was about to jump, I heard voices outside the door. A woman laughed. "Liam, you are truly ruthless. We've only known each other for 3 months, yet you let me use a fake marriage license to destroy her just to make me happy." Liam's voice was filled with adoration. "As long as you're happy, babe, you can play with her however you want." I stared at the closed door, my heart shattering into pieces. The living hell I had been through was nothing more than a game he played to make his new girl laugh. The wind on the balcony was howling, but their voices cut through it, hitting my ears with brutal clarity. I closed my eyes tightly, remembering the nightmare of the past month. After being labeled a homewrecker, I had posted screenshots of my chat history to prove I had been deceived. But every explanation only brought viler abuse. My colleagues avoided me like the plague. Strangers spat on the street when I walked by. "Look at her dressing like that. She's definitely a homewrecker. I bet she slept her way to getting all those designer bags." I tried my best to block out the rumors and focus on my work. But during a live broadcast, even the guest on my show asked me on air why I chose to destroy someone's family. I finally broke down, crying and screaming. "I'm not. I didn't even know he was married." Nobody believed me. The clip of my breakdown was edited, went viral on TikTok, and triggered a new wave of cyberbullying. I lost my job completely and was blacklisted. Fear and nightmares haunted me every night. I swallowed more and more sleeping pills, and my hair fell out in clumps. It wasn't until Liam returned from overseas with Vivian that I finally confronted him. He just looked at me with annoyance. "You only asked me if I had a girlfriend when I was studying abroad. You never asked if I had a wife. How did I lie to you?" The last string in my brain snapped. Death seemed like the only way out. But now, finding out the truth, I stood frozen. Since all of this was fake, what was the point of all the agony I had suffered over the past month? Anger, mixed with overwhelming grief, rushed to my head. I threw the door open. Liam's laugh froze on his face. My words cut through the room like a blade. "Why would you do this to me?" Frowning, he signaled Vivian to leave. Then he sat on the sofa and lit a cigarette. I was severely allergic to cigarette smoke and started coughing immediately. In the past, he would never smoke in front of me. But this time, he was completely indifferent to my discomfort. Liam said coldly, "Since you heard everything, I'll be straight with you. Maya, I know you love me, but I'm bored. I'm bored of your unchanging hairstyle, bored of always having to baby you, and most of all, bored of your single position in bed. I need excitement. Vivian can give me what you can't." I took a few deep breaths to suppress my nausea and said, "Liam, how can you do this to me? Have you forgotten my mother, Helen?" At the mention of my mother, his expression stiffened. "It's been so many years. You always use Helen's death to guilt-trip me. I know she saved my life. Wasn't marrying you enough to pay that debt?" Liam and I were neighbors growing up. Years ago, when the Sterling estate caught fire, his parents weren't home, and even their nanny abandoned him. Only my mother rushed into the flames to save him. But in the end, she died from severe smoke inhalation. My mother's death had always been a taboo topic between us. Bringing it up now, combined with the humiliation of the past weeks, broke me. I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. My mother died for nothing. She saved an ungrateful monster. The slap left both of us stunned. Then, Liam actually let out a low chuckle. "This is the first time I've seen you this angry." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "This expression on your face is actually quite hot. It's literally turning me on. Since Vivian isn't here, why don't we try the bathroom?" His words made my mind go completely blank. I looked at him in utter disbelief. He felt like a complete stranger. Was this really the man I had loved since childhood? I grabbed the nearest vase and threw it at him, screaming at him to get the hell out. After he left, I collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. I wanted to go to the bedroom to sleep off the exhaustion. But the moment I opened the door, I froze. Our wedding photo had been ripped off the wall and thrown onto the floor. My face was defaced with black marker, with homewrecker written next to it in bold letters. Worse, there were two distinct, dusty boot prints right on the photo. I took a step back, and my foot stepped on something slick. I looked down. It was a used condom. I gagged, but nothing came out. The pain consumed me. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't shed a single tear. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. Liam had posted a new Snapchat story. Finally returning to my real family. Excited to spend the rest of my life with my beautiful wife. The attached photo showed him and Vivian standing side by side, watching the sunset. In an instant, my brain exploded. The tears finally broke through. Humiliation and fury rolled down my cheeks. A fierce desire for revenge ignited deep within my heart. Over the next few days, I spent every waking hour gathering evidence of his infidelity, determined to ruin him. But the more I uncovered, the colder my heart became. 3 months ago, on my birthday, I sat alone in the dark waiting for him until dawn. He spent the entire night setting off fireworks with Vivian. 2 months ago, I went to the hospital and found out I was pregnant. I tried to call him to share the joy, but he was unreachable. He was busy taking care of Vivian because she had menstrual cramps. 1 month ago, when my reputation was ruined and I miscarried in the hospital due to stress, he was in Iceland with Vivian, watching the northern lights. I let out a bitter laugh. I rushed to the bathroom and threw up again. I threw up until there was nothing left but bile, and only then did the numb pain in my chest ease a little. The next day, I sent all the evidence to a prominent media contact, waiting for them to break the story. When I got home, I forced myself to sit down and draft the divorce papers. As I wrote, my eyes welled with tears. We were childhood sweethearts. We had crushes on each other for years. When we graduated high school, we promised that once he finished his degree abroad and came back, we would be together. In the beginning, no matter how late I worked, he would always pick me up. When I was sick, he would cancel multi-million-dollar meetings just to cook soup and take care of me in the hospital for 6 hours. On the day I got promoted, he spent over $1 million at an auction to buy a diamond ring and proposed to me. I didn't want people to say I was using him to climb the social ladder, so we kept our marriage a secret. But I never expected that this secrecy would become the perfect cover for his affair. Tears blurred my vision. Before I could understand when exactly he had changed, I fell asleep from pure exhaustion. When I woke up, the trending topics on Twitter were exploding. But the moment I opened my phone, I almost fainted. The evidence of his affair had been twisted. It was released as my confession of being a homewrecker. They had used AI to clone my voice for a fake audio apology and even generated my handwriting. The internet went into a frenzy again. My photos were maliciously photoshopped with homewrecker labels and circulated everywhere. Not only that, but all my social media accounts were banned, and my phone number was leaked. Harassment calls and disgusting text messages flooded in. Some called me a whore and told me to die. Others asked how much I charged for a night to be their side chick. I laughed out loud, a sound full of misery. In that instant, I realized this was Liam's retaliation. Whenever I faced negative comments at work in the past, he was always the first to shut them down, protecting me from any hurt. But now, for the sake of Vivian, he had personally dragged me into this hell. The door opened and Liam walked in. My rage burned away all remaining sanity. I grabbed a glass cup and hurled it at him.
Liam,
I am not the mistress.
she is.
I want a divorce. He dodged the glass, stepped forward, and grabbed my throat, pinning me against the wall. Even as my eyes bloodshot and physiological tears spilled over from the pain, his grip didn't loosen. Only when I was on the verge of suffocating did he finally let go. Are you calm now? Do that again, and I'll make sure it hurts more. Maya, a little jealousy is fine, but if you keep making scenes, I'll get annoyed. Stop using these cheap tricks to get my attention. You love me to death, and I need a wife who knows her place. We both get what we want, don't we? He glanced at the divorce papers on the laptop and sneered. You want a divorce? Do you even have the guts? Now that you have no job, who else can you rely on besides me? Be good. Once I'm done having fun, I'll clear your name. I coughed violently, but he ignored me. Vivian cried until her eyes were red. She wants me to throw a massive wedding to make it up to her. And she wants you to personally apologize to her at the wedding before she forgives me. Before leaving, he turned back. Whether you show up is up to you. But if Vivian is unhappy, I don't mind giving you another little punishment. After he left, my vision was still swimming in darkness. I started laughing hysterically. And then I cried. That night, Liam paid to push a new topic to the top of the trending list. The reformed playboy. The Sterling Group heir spends $100 million on a century wedding to make his wife happy. The comment section was flooded, and people even started shipping them. Real couples are the best. It must have been that other woman who seduced him. A famous TV host acting as a homewrecker. How disgusting. Does Maya have a shortage of men? She's so desperate. I hate homewreckers.
Good, I already.
Her mother died early, so she was raised without any manners. No wonder she has no morals. After reading these, I leaned over the trash can, feeling like I was going to throw up my entire stomach. In my fading consciousness, I remembered him kneeling on one knee, his ears bright red, carefully sliding the ring onto my finger and swearing to love me forever. When I raised my head again, except for the nausea and the burning sensation in my stomach, the sadness suddenly vanished. Everything about Liam seemed completely meaningless to me now. My phone vibrated, and a text message lit up the screen. I saw what you sent me. When can we meet and talk? The trending topics stayed active for several days. The #1 topic was Liam and Vivian's wedding of the century. The second was my fake confession. A small group of netizens attacked Liam, accusing him of cheating. He responded directly with a video on Instagram. Yes, I admit I made a mistake, but please do not attack Vivian. She is innocent, kind, and fragile. She can't handle this. I will take all the responsibility. I only hope that when we get married, everyone can give her their most sincere blessings. As soon as the video was released, the doubts vanished and people started praising him for being responsible. Then, they turned around and launched an even more vicious attack on me, calling me a shameless husband stealer. I locked my phone, finding the whole thing incredibly ironic. That night, Liam came back. He sat across from me and cleared his throat. The date for my wedding with Vivian is set. It's the day after tomorrow. Remember to show up. The day after tomorrow was the anniversary of my mother's death. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping harshly against the floor. I don't have time. I'm going to visit my mother's grave. And when are you going to sign the divorce papers? He completely ignored the divorce and sneered. Your mother has been dead for years. What is there to visit? Vivian's parents are coming too. You can just pay respects to her mother. I thought I was completely numb, but my heart still took a sharp hit. Seeing my reluctance, he pulled out my mother's necklace. This is Helen's necklace, right? If you don't go and you make Vivian unhappy, this necklace might. I clenched my teeth, so hard they ached. Just as my anger was about to boil over, the vibration from my phone pulled me back. I pinched myself hard, forcing myself to calm down. After glancing at the message, I said flatly, Liam, do you really want me to congratulate Vivian in front of all those reporters? He laughed. Of course.
Before leaving, he looked back at me.
It seems dead people's things are still useful. And about the day after tomorrow, you know what to say and what not to say. On the day of the wedding, Liam indeed invited a crowd of reporters. In the dressing room, Vivian was standing in front of me in a custom haute couture wedding gown. Her corsage read bride. Liam's read groom. And mine, which Liam tried to pin on my chest, read the homewrecker. Vivian shed a few tears, and Liam immediately tried to force the corsage onto me. I blocked his hand, but he didn't care. The sharp pin scratched my hand, drawing blood, but he successfully pinned it to my dress anyway. I clenched my fists. Are you sure you want to do this to me? He frowned. Vivian just asked you to wear flower. What's the big deal? Seeing me wearing it, Vivian said triumphantly. Later, you will read every single word of the apology slides I prepared. Then, you will get down on your knees, beg for my forgiveness, and say, I am a homewrecker. I shouldn't have ruined your family. Please forgive me. You have to stay on your knees until I tell you to get up. Do you understand? I didn't say a word, just stared at her. Seeing Vivian get annoyed, Liam grabbed my jaw tightly. Don't be ungrateful. I slapped his hand away and glared at him. Before I could speak, the door opened. Reporters with cameras and guests flooded in. They surrounded Vivian and Liam, praising her dress and saying they were a match made in heaven. But when they saw the homewrecker corsage on my chest, their expressions turned into pure disgust. I really don't understand how some women can be so cheap, always trying to steal other women's husbands.
Exactly.
Showing up on such a happy day. Vivian is too kind. If it were me, I would have slapped her already. Their stares felt like knives cutting into my skin. I ripped the corsage off. I am not the mistress. Vivian is. Nobody believed me. Their looks grew even more contemptuous. I've never seen someone so shameless. Acting like she's innocent when she's a homewrecker. Where does she get the nerve? Liam stood aside, not saying a single word to defend me. He only asked Vivian if she was tired or hungry. Seeing this, the onlookers grew even more envious of Vivian and aggressive toward me. Just as I was about to defend myself, Liam grabbed my arm tightly where no one could see, pinching me hard to shut me up. Cold sweat poured down my forehead from the pain, but he ignored it. Vivian played the victim perfectly. Please don't talk about Maya like that. She just loved Liam too much. He is so amazing. I can understand her. Maya is here to apologize today. I hope everyone can forgive her later. Shortly after, the ceremony began. They went up to the stage under the cheers of the crowd, exchanging emotional vows. Finally, after they exchanged rings, I was called up to the stage. But the moment the giant screen behind us lit up, Liam's face turned deathly pale. The silence that fell over the grand ballroom of the Sterling Estates was sudden, absolute, and suffocating. The soft, romantic lighting of the venue seemed to dim as the massive, high-definition LED screen behind the altar flickered. It was supposed to play a curated slideshow of Maya's confession, a humiliating, AI-generated sequence of her kneeling, apologizing, and begging for Vivian's forgiveness. Vivian's triumphant smile was already plastered across her face, her eyes shining with malicious anticipation. Liam stood tall beside her, his hand resting possessively on her waist, the picture of a righteous husband protecting his fragile new bride. But the screen did not show Maya's face. Instead, a stark, blue and white interface of the state civil registry database filled the screen. The official government seal pulsed in the top left corner. A collective murmur rippled through the crowd of high society guests and media, reporters. Cameras, which had been aimed at Maya's pale, bruised face, began to tilt upward. The screen zoomed in on a specific document. Certificate of marriage. Husband, Liam Arthur Sterling. Wife, Maya Lynn. Status, active. Legally binding. No record of dissolution. What is this? Vivian's voice cracked, her high-pitched whisper carrying through the lapel microphones. She turned to Liam, her eyes wide with sudden panic. Liam, what is that doing up there? Turn it off. Tell them to turn it off. Liam's hand dropped from her waist. His face had gone from triumphant to a sickly, ash-gray color. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers trembling so violently he nearly dropped it. Where's the tech team? Cut the power. Cut the feed, he roared into his mic, his polished, playboy demeanor instantly evaporating. But the screen did not cut out. In fact, the display split into 3 panels. On the left was the active marriage certificate. In the center, a video began to play. It was the raw, unedited security footage from Maya's penthouse apartment from 3 nights ago. The audio was crystal clear, piped directly through the ballroom's state-of-the-art surround sound system. On the screen, Liam's face appeared, dark and snarling. He was seen grabbing Maya's throat, pinning her against the wall until her eyes turned bloodshot. Are you calm now? Do that again, and I'll make sure it hurts more. Liam's recorded voice boomed through the speakers, echoing off the high ceilings. Maya, a little jealousy is fine, but if you keep making scenes, I'll get annoyed. You want a divorce? Do you even have the guts? Now that you have no job, who else can you rely on besides me? Be good. Once I'm done having fun, I'll clear your name. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Journalists scrambled forward, their camera shutters firing like rapid-fire weaponry. The flashing lights illuminated the sheer terror on Liam's face. No, that's fake. That's AI. Vivian screamed into the crowd, her manicured hands clawing at her silk veil. She generated that. Maya is a media professional. She fabricated this to ruin us. But the right-hand panel of the screen began to scroll. It displayed a technical, forensic report from the State Cybercrime Division, bearing the digital signature of the chief investigator. It outlined the exact IP addresses, server logs, and payment transactions used to generate the fake AI voice clones and handwritten apologies of Maya that had flooded the internet over the past week. The billing address for the high-end deepfake software was listed clearly. The Sterling Group, Executive Suite 4, billing name, Liam Sterling. Oh my God, a prominent lifestyle influencer in the front row gasped, covering her mouth. He actually framed her. She's his legal wife, and he made her look like a mistress. This is bigamy, a legal reporter shouted, shoving a microphone toward the stage. Mr. Sterling, are you attempting to enter a second marriage while legally married to Maya Lynn? Is this a public admission of bigamy? Liam backed away from the altar, his boots catching on the train of Vivian's custom gown. A sharp rip echoed through the quiet space as the delicate lace tore. Vivian stumbled, crying out in shock, But Liam didn't even look back to help her. He was looking at the back of the room. There, standing near the heavy oak double doors, was a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit. Beside him stood three men in dark trench coats, carrying briefcases. The man in the charcoal suit was Julian Vance. Julian was a federal prosecutor, a rising star in the Justice Department and a former senior of Maya's from her university days. He was the one who had sent her the text message nights ago. Julian walked down the center aisle, his footsteps slow, measured, and heavy. The reporters instinctively parted for him, sensing the shift in the room's gravity. "Mr. Liam Sterling," Julian said, his voice calm, steady, and carrying an undeniable authority. "I am Julian Vance, representing the state prosecutor's office. Behind me are officers from the Economic Crimes Unit and the Cyber Safety Division." What is the meaning of this?" Liam blustered, trying to summon his usual arrogance, though sweat was pouring down his neck, soaking his designer collar. "This is a private event. Get these people out of here. I will have my lawyers see you into bankruptcy." "You can try," Julian replied smoothly, stopping at the foot of the stage. He looked up at Liam, his eyes cold and clinical. "But your lawyers are currently occupied. As we speak, federal agents are executing search warrants at the Sterling Group headquarters and your private residences." Julian gestured to the screen behind them. The display changed one last time, showing a red-stamped federal document. "We are here to execute an arrest warrant for you, Mr. Sterling, on charges of domestic abuse, severe cyber harassment, illegal identity theft through artificial fabrication, and—" Julian paused, letting the silence stretch. "Grand embezzlement of public charity funds." The crowd gasped again. "Embezzlement." Vivian shrieked, her voice cracking. "That's impossible. Liam is a billionaire." "He was," Julian said, turning his gaze to Vivian. "Until he began draining the Helen Lynn Memorial Burn Foundation, a charity funded by the Sterling Group to honor the woman who saved his life, to fund your lifestyle, the luxury villa in Iceland, the $1 million custom wedding gown you are wearing, the diamond ring on your finger, all paid for with funds stolen from a charity meant for pediatric burn survivors." Maya stood on the stage, her hand resting on her collarbone where the homewrecker corsage had been pinned moments ago. She had ripped it off, leaving a tiny bead of blood on her dress. She looked at Liam, then at Vivian, who was now trembling so violently she could barely stand. For the first time in a month, the crushing weight in Maya's chest eased. The air in the room felt clean. "Maya." Liam took a step toward her, his eyes wild, his voice dropping to a desperate, pathetic whisper. "Maya, please. We're family. Your mother—"
"Helen, she wouldn't want this. We can talk about this."
"I'll give you whatever you want. The penthouse, the money, the network. I can get your job back." "Do not speak my mother's name," Maya said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through his desperate rambling like ice. "My mother died saving a human being, not an ungrateful monster." She turned her back on him, stepping off the stage and walking toward Julian. As she walked past the reporters, the very same people who had sneered at her, avoided her, and whispered behind her back, now looked down in shame. Some tried to stammer apologies, but Maya didn't hear them. She kept her head high, her eyes fixed on the open doors at the end of the hall. Behind her, the sound of metal handcuffs clicking into place echoed through the ballroom, followed by Vivian's hysterical screams as she realized her dream of marrying into royalty had evaporated into a federal investigation. The investigation room at the federal building was cold and smelled of stale coffee and ozone. Maya sat on one side of the polished metal table, her hands wrapped around a paper cup of hot water. Julian sat beside her, sorting through a thick stack of manila folders. "You've been through hell, Maya," Julian said softly, his professional armor slipping for a brief second to reveal the genuine concern of an old friend.
"But
we have them. The evidence of cyber harassment is ironclad. We traced the digital transactions directly to Liam's personal account. But there's something
else.
Something far worse." Maya raised her eyes, her pale face tight with exhaustion. "What is it?" Julian slid a dusty, yellowed folder across the table. It was labeled, "Sterling. Estate Fire Investigation, 2012, close. When you sent me the files on Liam's finances, I had my team look into the history of the Helen Lynn Memorial Foundation," Julian explained, pointing to a document inside the folder. "The foundation was established immediately after the fire that killed your mother. On paper, it was a beautiful gesture, the Sterling family honoring the brave neighbor who ran into the flames to save their only son. But look at the financial structure of the Sterling group from that year. Maya frowned, scanning the financial ledger. They were on the verge of bankruptcy.
Worse.
They were completely insolvent, Julian said, his finger tracing a line of red numbers. Liam's father, Arthur Sterling Sr., had embezzled tens of millions from their family-owned chemical division. The company was about to go under, and a federal audit was scheduled for the following week. If the audit had happened, the Sterling family would have lost everything and gone to prison. A cold dread began to pool in Maya's stomach. The fire, it wasn't an
Accident?
The official report filed by the local police chief back then claimed it was an electrical malfunction in the basement, Julian said, his voice dropping to a
Grave whisper.
But we found a copy of the original fire marshal's report that was buried. The fire started in 3 different locations simultaneously, using a highly specialized chemical accelerant manufactured by the Sterling Chemical Division. Maya's breath caught in her throat. They set the fire themselves.
To destroy.
The financial records.
Yes.
An insurance fraud scheme to wipe their debts and destroy the evidence of their embezzlement, Julian confirmed. But they made a fatal mistake.
They
didn't realize their teenage son, Liam, was still in the house. He had snuck back in through a basement window after sneaking out to meet friends. When the fire started, he was trapped in his bedroom. Maya closed her eyes, the memories of that horrific night rushing back. The screaming sirens, the smell of burning wood and plastic, her mother's desperate face as she ran toward the burning house next door, ignoring the police line. My mother, she didn't know, Maya whispered, a hot tear slipping down her
cheek.
She thought it was a tragedy. She ran in to save him. And she did, Julian said, his hand resting gently over hers. But the Sterling family used her death. They took the insurance payout, which was massive because of the tragedy, and used it to rebuild their empire. They established the Helen Lynn Memorial Foundation to paint themselves as saints, using it as a tax shelter and a money laundering vehicle for the next 14 years. And they took your mother's patents.
What?
Maya's head snapped up. Your mother was a research chemist, Maya. She had been working on a highly efficient, non-toxic fire retardant formula. She had filed for a provisional patent just months before her death. After she died, because you were a minor and had no other family, the Sterling family volunteered to act as your legal guardians and executors of Helen's estate. They quietly absorbed her patents, registered them under the Sterling Group, and built their multi-billion-dollar chemical safety division on her intellectual property. Maya sat frozen. The man she had loved since childhood, the family she had trusted, the people she believed had taken her in out of the goodness of their hearts. They were the architects of her mother's death. They had built their entire empire on her mother's ashes, stolen her legacy, and then, when Liam got bored of her, they used her mother's memory to humiliate and destroy her. The grief that had weighed her down for years suddenly crystallized into something hard, cold, and razor-sharp. She stood up, her chair scraping against the linoleum floor. Her eyes were no longer wet. They were clear, dark, and filled with a terrifying resolve. Where's Liam now? She asked. He's in holding room 4, Julian replied. His lawyers are trying to negotiate bail, but given the severity of the financial fraud and the domestic abuse charges, the judge is hesitant. He wants to see you. Good, Maya said, her voice dropping to a chilling whisper. Because I have a few things to return to him. Liam Sterling looked like a shell of his former self. The bespoke groom's suit was wrinkled and stained with sweat. His hair, usually styled to perfection, clung to his forehead. He sat hunched over the metal table in the interrogation room, his head in his hands. When the door clicked open, he scrambled to his feet, his eyes lighting up with a desperate hope when he saw Maya walk in. Maya. Thank God, he stammered, taking a step forward before the guard in the corner cleared his throat and pointed to the chair. Liam slowly sat back down, his hands twitching. You have to help me, Maya. This is all a misunderstanding. The financial stuff. It was my father's doing from years ago, and Julian Vance is just using this to make a name for himself. He's using you. Maya didn't sit down. She stood at the end of the table, looking down at him, with a detachment that made him shiver. I brought you something, she said quietly. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, velvet box. She opened it and placed it on the table. Inside was the diamond proposed ring he had bought her for over $1 million, alongside the crumpled, torn homewrecker corsage from the wedding. Next to the box, she placed a silver necklace with a small, charred locket.
It
was her mother's necklace, the one he had used to blackmail her into coming to the wedding. How did you get that? Liam gasped, his eyes darting to the necklace. I had that locked in my office safe. The police have a very thorough search warrant, Liam, Maya said, her voice devoid of any emotion. They found it in your desk drawer, right next to the fraudulent offshore accounts you set up in Vivian's name to funnel money out of my mother's charity. Liam's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. You told me that marrying me was enough to pay the debt of my mother's saving your life, Maya continued, her voice steady and precise. But you didn't marry me out of guilt, did you, Liam? You married me because you were terrified. You knew that if I ever looked into my mother's estate, if I ever hired a lawyer to look into her patents, your entire empire would collapse.
No.
Maya, that's not true, he whispered, his eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. I loved you. I really did. In the beginning. In the beginning, you were a coward, and in the end, you are still a coward. Maya cut him off. You let your new girl play with me because you thought I was
weak.
You thought that because I loved you, I would always endure it. You thought my silence was guaranteed. She leaned down, placing both hands on the table, forcing him to meet her gaze. Every single tear I shed this past month, every insult I took on the street, every nightmare that kept me awake, I am going to make sure you pay for it. Not just with your money, Liam. With your freedom. With your name. With every single thing you have ever cared about. Maya, please. Liam sobbed, reaching out to grab her hand, but she stepped back, out of his reach. We can settle this out of court. I'll sign the divorce papers. I'll give you 80% of my personal shares in the Sterling Group. You can have the chemical division. It was your mother's anyway. Just tell the prosecutors to drop the cyber harassment and domestic abuse charges. It's too late for that, Maya said, her voice cold as ice. The state is prosecuting you, Liam. I don't have to do a thing but stand as a witness. And, believe me, I will be a very loud witness. She turned and walked toward the door. Maya, you can't do this to me. Liam screamed behind her, his voice cracking into a high-pitched wail as the guard stepped in to hold him back. I made you. You were nothing before me. You'll never work in media again. I'll ruin you. You already tried, Maya said, without looking back. And look where it got you. The heavy metal door clicked shut, silencing his screams. Over the next 3 weeks, the public trial of Liam Sterling became the biggest national news story of the decade. The media, which had once enthusiastically participated in the cyberbullying of Maya Lin, did a complete U-turn. The very networks that had blacklisted her now competed fiercely for an exclusive interview. The viral TikTok clips of her breakdown were replaced by deep-dive investigative reports exposing the corruption of the Sterling Group. The evidence presented by Julian Vance and his legal team was devastating. First came the financial records. The public was outraged to learn that the Helen Lynn Memorial Burn Foundation, which had ran countless national ad campaigns showing photos of young, smiling burn survivors, had been used as a personal ATM by Liam Sterling and Vivian Ward. The prosecution presented receipts of million-dollar shopping sprees in Paris, luxury yacht charters in Monaco, and the infamous $100 million wedding of the century, all paid for with funds earmarked for pediatric skin grafts and medical equipment. Then came the exposure of the AI cyber harassment campaign. The tech industry was shook when the prosecution demonstrated how Liam's PR team had used sophisticated, military-grade AI deepfake software to clone Maya's voice and handwriting to manipulate public opinion. It sparked a national conversation about digital safety, cyberbullying, and the urgent need for stricter regulations on AI technology. Maya became the face of a new legislative movement, with lawmakers proposing Maya's law to criminalize the unauthorized use of AI to damage a person's reputation. But the final nail in the coffin was the reopening of the 2012 fire investigation. With the help of federal investigators, Julian Vance tracked down the retired police chief who had signed off on the original electrical fire report. Under the threat of federal prosecution for obstruction of justice, the former chief confessed that he had received a $5 million bribe from Liam's late father to bury the fire marshal's true findings. The public learned the sickening truth. The Sterling Empire was built on a cold-blooded case of arson that had claimed the life of a heroic woman, Helen Lynn, whose only crime was running into a burning house to save a neighbor's
child.
The backlash was swift and brutal. The Sterling Group stock plummeted by 80% in a single week. Major retail partners pulled Sterling chemical safety products from their shelves, and the board of directors, scrambling to save whatever was left of the company's reputation, voted unanimously to strip Liam Sterling of his title and shares. Vivian Ward, realizing her lavish dream was over, tried to flee the country to a non-extradition territory with several suitcases filled with stolen designer jewelry and cash. She was arrested at the airport and charged with conspiracy to commit grand larceny and tax evasion. In a desperate bid to reduce her sentence, Vivian turned on Liam in the interrogation room. She provided federal prosecutors with hundreds of encrypted text messages and voice notes showing that Liam had planned the entire cyber harassment campaign against Maya to prevent her from discovering the truth about her mother's patents. The perfect couple that the internet had swooned over was now tearing each other apart in court, their faces splashed across every tabloid as the ultimate symbols of greed, cruelty, and moral decay. 3 months after the disastrous wedding, the court finally handed down its sentences. Liam Sterling was sentenced to 25 years in a federal maximum security prison on charges of grand larceny, embezzlement, domestic abuse, cyber harassment, and conspiracy to commit arson resulting in death. Because of his father's passing, Liam was held legally responsible for the continuing cover-up of the 2012 fire. Vivian Ward was sentenced to 8 years for tax evasion and conspiracy. As part of the civil lawsuit filed by Maya, the court ordered the complete restructuring of the Sterling Group. The chemical safety division, built entirely on Helen Lynn's stolen patents, was legally transferred to Maya's name. The Helen Lynn Memorial Burn Foundation was stripped from the Sterling family and placed under the control of an independent board of directors, with Maya serving as the honorary chairwoman. Every single dollar embezzled by Liam was ordered to be repaid from his seized personal assets. The penthouse, the luxury cars, the offshore accounts, everything was auctioned off to pay back the victims of the charity and the taxes owed to the state. On the day the final court order was signed, the sun was shining brightly over the city, the autumn air crisp and clear. Maya stood in the lobby of her former TV network. The director, who had personally signed her termination letter and blacklisted her from the industry, was now standing in front of her, bowing so low his forehead nearly touched his knees. "Maya, please, we were misled by the fake evidence," the director stammered, his face pale with anxiety as he offered her a folder containing a new contract. "The board is offering you the position of executive producer and chief anchor of our primetime investigative journalism division. We will give you complete creative control, a 5-year guaranteed contract, and a public, on-air apology from the network during primetime hours." Maya looked at the contract, then up at the director's sweating face. She felt no anger toward him. She felt no satisfaction in his desperate pleading. She realized, with a sudden wave of clarity, that she had outgrown this place. The tiny studio, the gossip, the constant scramble for ratings, it all felt incredibly small compared to the life she was about to build. "No, thank you," Maya said, sliding the folder back to him. "Maya, please name your price," the director pleaded, following her as she walked toward the exit. "We can double the salary.
Triple it."
"My price is something you can't afford, Mr. Davis," Maya said, turning to him with a serene smile. "My peace." She walked out of the glass building, the glass doors sliding shut behind her, cutting off his frantic shouting. The cemetery was quiet, the only sound being the gentle rustle of golden autumn leaves falling from the oak trees. Maya walked up the stone path, holding a bouquet of fresh, white lilies, her mother's favorite. She wore a simple, elegant trench coat, her hair cut into a chic, modern bob that suited her sharp, confident features. She stopped in front of her mother's gravestone. The stone had been cleaned, the moss removed, and the inscription stood out clearly in the soft sunlight. Helen Lynn, a devoted mother, a brilliant mind, and a hero. Maya knelt down and gently placed the lilies at the base of the stone. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the silver necklace with the charred locket. The investigators had cleaned it, polishing away the soot until the silver shone like new. Inside was a small, perfectly preserved photo of her mother holding her as a baby, both of them laughing. Maya fastened the necklace around her own neck, the cold metal resting against her skin, warming quickly up to her body heat. I did it, Mom, Maya whispered, her voice soft but filled with an incredible strength. The truth is out. Everyone knows what you did, and everyone knows who you were. Your legacy is safe. She sat on the stone bench beside the grave, looking out over the peaceful valley. Footsteps approached from behind, soft and slow. She didn't have to turn around
To know who it was.
Julian Vance stopped beside the bench, his hands in his pockets, his gaze resting on the gravestone. He didn't say anything at first, respecting her quiet moment. The board of the New Lynn Chemical Safety Group had their first meeting today. Julian said after a quiet moment, his voice warm. They're ready for you to take over as CEO. The pediatric burn units we funded are already receiving their first shipments of your mother's non-toxic safety materials. Thank you, Julian, Maya said, looking up at him. For everything. I didn't do much, Julian smiled, stepping closer. I just opened the door. You're the one who walked through the fire and came out stronger. Maya stood up, taking a deep breath of the fresh, clean air. She looked back at her mother's grave one last time, feeling a profound sense of peace. The nightmare was finally over. The ashes had settled, and from them, she had built something beautiful, strong, and entirely her own. Let's go, Maya said, slipping her hand into her pocket. We have a lot of work to do. As they walked down the stone path together, the golden leaves fell softly around them, whispering of new beginnings, of justice served, and of a future that belonged entirely to her.